Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Two Toe Tags and Metal Reviews, and today we're giving you guys our review of Invincible Shield by Judas Priest. So we've listened to this album non-stop for the entire week, and I'm just going to start it off saying that, you know, there are a lot of albums that we review where we say, oh, there was this like 3-song stretch in like the middle or near the end. Yeah, that's the good part. I don't think I've had an album where the start is that insane stretch. The first 3 tracks of this album, bangers. Like, it starts out hot. Panic Attack, super duper awesome. I can't unhear the Tom Sawyer part of that song.
Yeah.
It didn't necessarily bother me. I just thought, like, oh, Tom Sawyer, there it is.
It almost feels like a nod in a way.
I suppose.
I don't know how influential Rush was on Judas Priest, but it seems like a vice versa thing.
Came out around the same time.
Around the same time, actually, yeah, if you think about it. But maybe it was a nod, maybe not. I don't know how they couldn't know the similarity was there.
Yeah, it's like, I doubt that they're just like, oh, what? That's the same? Oh, it's like Tom Sawyer is like one of, if not Rush's most popular song. Yeah. So they had to have heard it. So maybe it was a little cool reference, a nod to them perhaps.
Maybe, yeah.
But I still think that's a really cool song either way. They do this false ending into an extra solo, which I love every single time. Every single time the song comes on, like, yeah, they're, you know, doing this chorus out. No, they're not. Here's another solo for you. And then we'll end the song. Love that. And then, so you have this cool track. And then you have a song even better than that afterwards, which is The Serpent and the King. It reminds me of like Painkiller era Priest, that song. Especially because like you got the killer high vocals on it for a lot of the song. And I listened to Firepower again just to get a reference point. We reviewed that album way back when it came out in 2018.
It's a while ago, yeah.
At this point, it's a while ago. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But there wasn't really as powerful of a vocal performance on that record compared to this one, which is pretty crazy to consider that 6 years later, he got better. he had a better performance. And yeah, that song is a song that is so hot out the gate and just feels awesome the entire time. It's cool that in like the choruses, you got a little harmonic bit from the guitar, and then later Rob sings that melody in the later choruses. So it's like just small details like that on top of the song, just having awesome energy makes it super duper cool. And then you have the title track right afterwards, which is a good example of how I feel like a lot of these songs are really catchy. I was finding myself singing along to a lot of these songs, even ones that I really enjoyed and ones that I didn't enjoy as much. I was still probably singing along a little bit to the choruses because they did a really good job at making them hooky songs, and not to an annoying degree. Because there are songs that are hooky and get in your head, but not in the good way. This album did it in the good way. So Invincible Shield, I like that one quite a bit as well. So it's like, you have that super duper killer pack at the start of the record, but does it get better or worse from there? I feel like in my case, it's like, it starts to show its variety, you know?
Okay.
After that, you have Devil in Disguise, which I think is a pretty cool track. And it makes sense because your first 3 are all super duper high energy. You've got to bring the energy down a little bit after that, you know what I mean? To have a flow. And then I started to notice something about this album when it came to that kind of stuff. This album is kind of laid out like it's a show.
How so?
So you hear all the tracks, you know, the energy levels rising and falling in the way it goes. And then the way that Giants in the Sky ends, it kind of feels like to me that this album is put together as if it was a live show. Like I could see.
Like a concert.
Yeah, like a concert. Like as if this album is a concert.
Yeah, when you said show, I thought you meant like it was scripted like a TV show or something.
No. But okay, so
yeah,
it kind of feels like it's laid out like as if it's a concert.
I think that's how albums should be. That's kind of what I'm looking for as an album. Like if a band's gonna play an album live, it should have a good flow to it. So even recording it in a studio, which I think should have the same type of flow to it.
Yeah.
And that's my opinion, yeah.
And that's the impression I got with this album as I'm listening to it. I'm like, they could totally play this whole album front to back as a show. That's it. And it would be a working good show. And I'd enjoy that. I guess another thing to mention about the title track I didn't mention, it has this key change in it that's pretty subtle, and I like that. Key changes that are super duper brash in your face can get kind of annoying, so I like that this one's just like, oh, it kind of just swooped in, you didn't expect it. It's when they go to the last chorus, which they play twice, not just once, which is pretty cool. Then they move up a step, which is cool. And then I also mentioned it last week, I believe, that early on in that song, the lower register vocals are more in the forefront and the highs are in the back, and then that flips later in the song where it's the high vocals at the front and the low ones in the back.
Yeah.
That's another example of this album having really cool details. They might not hear it first, because I'm pretty sure you didn't hear it at first when I mentioned it.
I didn't. I actually never paid attention to it, so I still don't know what you're talking about. But hey, man, a detail's a detail. Sometimes you catch them, sometimes you don't. Even after listening to an album for an entire week.
Yeah, that's fair. But that shows that an album can have a lot of depth, right?
That's right.
So, I guess I've said a little bit so far. I'm just curious, what are you thinking right now of the album?
So
yeah, like,
just to
thinking of more
piggyback off what
songs.
you were talking about. So you said you had this 3-song stretch, and it was the first 3 songs where I was kind of like your big pow out of the gate. This album's awesome. That's like basically the highlight for you. I feel sort of similar, just not in the same part of the album. So I had a 3-song stretch as well. But just to touch on the first 3 songs, I thought Serpent and the King was a pretty blast song. I'm actually surprised you liked it. I know.
What?
I'm surprised you liked it. This is a song that I liked certain parts of it. There's a little bit of double bass in there and stuff like that you hear it that I liked, but that was basically it. The rest of it, it's fine, not bad, but it's just one of those songs that just kind of comes and goes. And there's a couple of songs on this album that do that for me, unfortunately. They kind of just happen, and every time I listen to it, I'm like, okay, here it is again, but whatever, right? That was one of those songs for me. I think Panic Attack and Invincible Shield are way better tracks. Those definitely I can see why you're hyped about them. But the 3-song stretch for me was 7, 8, and 9. So As God Is My Witness, I thought that was a great track. Just really great energy, great riffs. This is like the classic Judas Priest feel. Really like that stuff. Trial by Fire. We reacted to this song.
We did.
We were kind of meh on the reaction.
We thought it was pretty good.
Pretty good.
That was like it.
That was it, exactly. It wasn't what we were hoping for. But the more I listened to the song, the more it grew on me. And this is a great example of why listening to a song on an album is a better way to judge it than when you listen to it as a standalone single. I like the fact that it's in 3/4. It makes it sound different than the other songs on the album. And it's just got great riffs. It's just catchy. It's sing-alongable.
It is now.
It is now. It's just a super solid song. But then after that, you have Escape from Reality, which for me is the best song on the album.
That song's so good.
Escape from Reality is a playlist song. It's just, riffs are nasty on this song. Bass is chunky. The vocals are nice and bright, which is a nice contrast to the darker tone and the presence of the bass.
And then you got the bridge.
The bridge with that Ozzy Osbourne style vocal, which we mentioned last week, it's almost uncanny how similar Rob sounds to Ozzy Osbourne in this part. Chorus is catchy, just overall super solid, well written, super well performed song. So that for me is the 3-song stretch. Sons of Thunder, Crown of Horns, Devil in Disguise, and The Serpent King, I think all those songs are very meh songs.
Oh, okay.
And there's certain parts of each of them that might be like kind of okay. Like in Sons of Thunder, for example, there's a part where the guitars and the vocals, they kind of trade lines during the verses.
Yeah, I noticed that pretty late in the week, actually.
Yeah, so the vocals will say a line and the guitars will play a lick, and then the vocals will say a line and the guitars will play a lick. So I like that kind of play when band members play off each other like that. So that's cool, that's a plus. But the song as a whole didn't do much for me. Giants in the Sky I thought was a cool song to close the album. Rob, I almost said Bruce Dickinson.
Whoa.
Rob hit some really nice notes, some good vocal inflection. The last time he says the line, leaving such a legacy, my friends, right? He has a bit of a inflection in his vocals. I like that, like how he plays around with it. It's also cool that the song is an homage to other metal singers and metal, basically band metal people who have passed away, right? Their legend lives on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I really like the the bridge in that song, the soft like acoustic bridge.
Yeah, so that's another thing. That's part of the reason why it feels good as a closer, because it kind of gives you a nice relaxing kind of feel to it. But the song is not a ballad by any means. It's got some energy to it. It's got that moment,
and
right?
Then even at the very end, like they have the big explosion at the end, which I see as like them ending the concert, like bam.
And then they come out and they play an encore,
which is the 3 bonus tracks.
Nah, I'd pass on that. But
logically, it would make sense. You got 3 bonus tracks.
Logically, it would make sense,
right?
but entertainment-wise, it would be a flop. So yeah, as far as the bonus tracks go, we might as well touch on them a little bit since we just brought it up. They're not included in our review, but there are 3 bonus tracks on this album. I did listen to them throughout the week, but not really on purpose. Like if they came on, they came on. But I deliberately tried to skip them because I didn't want them. They're not part of the review.
Like it's not.
But you said you liked one of them. Which one was that?
That was The Lodger, the last track. Amazing song, so sinister, so just evil. It sounds nothing like anything else on the album, and it makes me wish that song was on the album.
Yeah.
It's so cool. The first one, which I think was called Fight for Your Life, was like pretty good. The second one, which I don't remember the name of, was like whatever to me, but
It started with a V or something.
Something, I don't know.
Victory or something like
But
that.
The Lodger, man, amazing track. Don't sleep on that track. It's not part of our review. It's not part of our scoring method for the album.
Right.
But, wow, such a cool song. But if I'm gonna touch on, because I know you mentioned a few songs that kind of just come and go, kind of whatever to you.
Yeah.
The one that really did that for me, the main one, was Gates of Hell. It was a track that kind of came and went, and I kept forgetting about it. That's one thing I think about with this album, like how memorable are the tracks? And I feel like almost every track has something memorable about it, something I could point at and be like, yeah, there's that part of that song that's pretty cool. Gates of Hell, I kept forgetting how it went, and I'd hear it again and be like, oh yeah, that's how it went. So like I had to kind of focus on it just to remember it.
So Gates of Hell got a bit of a pass. I feel similarly, but it got a bit of a pass because I feel like it's one of the stronger solos on the album.
Okay.
So that goes a long way with me. If your solo is solid, then you kind of get a couple extra bonus points just for that alone. Especially a band like Judas Priest, which I consider a guitar band / solo band, right? They're kind of, they have it in all the songs. But it wasn't just the playing of the solo, it was the tone of the solo as well. I feel like there was something slightly different about it. It made it stand out a little bit. And, you get a few bonus points for that alone.
I'm very curious. What do you think of Crown of Horns? Because I know when we heard that song, we reacted to it, we weren't huge on it, but in the context of the album, how do you feel about it?
I don't like it really, to be honest. It's not a horrible song. I've heard worse for sure. It's just not Judas Priest's best, even for like a ballad type of stuff. I didn't really like it when we reacted to it. I didn't really like it much on the first impression. I think it grew on me a little bit, but then it started to regress on it again, and I feel like it's too long. But it's got that one part, like the bridge, where it's like, I call out to the world tonight, blah, 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 raise your horns up high, or some shit like that. That part just sounds so cringy to me. However, there's a little instrumental part before that cringy bridge section, which is actually pretty damn cool. And it's probably the song's biggest redeeming quality. It's just not good enough to make me want to listen to the song just for that part.
But to think of that part at a live show, doesn't it all make sense? Gets the crowd into it, especially because like this song
is... It's a good crowd-pleasing song, I guess. It's
also a break from the action too.
It's doing a purpose, it just doesn't sound that good. Right? It serves its purpose. It's doing what it's meant to do. Album breather, get the crowd into it, get the people singing, get their horns up in the sky.
Yeah.
It's doing all that stuff, right? Pleasing the audience. But it's just not that well written of a song. There's better ways to do that, in my opinion. Maybe other people love this song. I don't know. I also found that, this album. I mean, I've listened to a lot of Judas Priest in my life. I've never really gotten much of a sense of religion playing a big factor in a lot of the lyrics. Like, you gotta think Judas Priest obviously is, the band name is religious in and of itself.
Wasn't the older stuff more like that though?
There's always religion kind of intertwined into it, but I just haven't seen it in a while maybe.
I suppose it's been a while.
And maybe it hasn't been this frontal or this obvious. Like Crown of Thorns, Devil in Disguise, Serpent and the King, As God Is My Witness. Like, these are all songs that really drive home this religious kind of sound or message theme, And I'm wondering if there's a reason for that. Like, did Rob find God or something like that? Or is this just the mood he's in when he's writing this stuff? Because I saw somebody make some comments about this album having really cringy lyrics, and I kind of agree with that. I don't think they're bad, but I think they've had better lyrics in the past for sure. Because after I read that comment, I started paying more attention to the lyrics. I'm like, yeah, these are actually kind of like, they're just like, I don't know, they feel almost adolescent. Judas Priest has always been very rhymey. That's another thing that might turn people off, right? It's just easy to rhyme to write a song. It's hard not to do that when you're writing songs. So
Pretty natural for lyric writing.
it's natural for lyric writing, but there's a skill behind making it not sound like you're writing a
you're
a
forcing
poem
a
in
rhyme.
6th grade, like
Yeah.
right. So I don't know. It was something that bugged me a little bit, but I don't know how I would have felt if I didn't read that comment. I might not have cared. I might not have even considered it. But once I read that comment, I started paying more attention and started going, wow, this is really like, I don't know, not really doing much for me in that sense. So
I mean, I thought Crown of Horns, it grew on me. I was kind of singing along with it a bit, and I feel like if a song is getting you to sing along and it's not annoying you that way, then it's doing something right.
okay.
I liked its placement on the album. I feel like it's a good mid-album break. I started to appreciate it a lot more that way. If
Perfect
it was
spot for that, yeah.
hearing it on its own, I didn't really enjoy it as much, but hearing it in context of the album, I did. One small thing I guess I also wanted to mention, the transition from Escape from Reality into Sons of Thunder is really cool. How it ends and then boo-doo-doo. You know what I mean? It's just like, whoa, we're back in the action. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, that was just like a really small thing I kept noticing. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. Well, but I guess with that being said, shall we rate this album?
Sure, and I will go first. So Invincible, Shield, Judas Priest. You know what? It's Judas Priest. There's gonna be some stuff on here that's awesome, and for some people, maybe all of it's awesome. But I've never been the type of person that's liked every single thing this band has done, right? These guys have made a lot of music over the years. Some of their albums I think are pretty garbage. Some of them are fucking amazing.
This is number 19, by the way.
This is their 19th album. So this album I think has a mixture of those qualities. It has stuff that I'm really just like, just total throwaway tracks. Songs that are like pretty good, I can get behind them, and then songs that are like, yes, this is what I want from this band. With all things said, my rating system has delivered my score, which is a healthy 6 out of 10.
All right, a 6. As for myself, I think it's interesting because I listened to Firepower for the first time in a while, as I mentioned, to get a reference point. And while I rated that album a 7 back when we reviewed it, listening to it now, it kind of made me think the band was showing its age at that point. But then I listened to Invincible Shield, and it feels like they were getting younger again.
Like a new spark of life.
Like a new spark of life. Like it felt like they found the fire again with this record. I felt that with the last one, listening to it now, there were a lot of like I kind of felt similar to you, where there's like kind of a handful of songs that were kind of like forgettable, kind of throwaway songs. With this album, there's really not much of that there. Like the majority of songs for me were either good, generally enjoyable, or awesome. So, and I also feel like there's a lot of memorable stuff. You know, there was only really, like I mentioned, one song that kind of had stuff to me that was forgettable. Everything else had something about it that was notable that I could recall and be like, yeah, that was pretty cool. Or songs that just in their entirety were amazing. So for me, it is in toe tag territory. It's gonna get my toe tag. And yeah, I thought it was a great record, definitely a step up from the last one, and I had a lot of fun listening to it.
You know, it's very interesting. I feel like, and this isn't uncommon for me to be in a minority opinion-wise, but a lot of people seem to like this better than Firepower. I think that Firepower was a better album. I gave that a 6.5, so not much better, right? My review was slightly better on Firepower, but just having like Spectre on that album, for example, that's elite Judas Priest at that point.
Great song.
I mean, I don't remember much of the rest of the track list, to be honest. At this point, it's 6 years old, but I just find it funny that you liked it more than I thought you would, to be honest. But that's cool. Toe tag from you and a 6 for me. So, anyways, guys, that's it for this album review of Judas Priest Invincible Shield. So leave your thoughts down below and let us know what you guys think about this album after listening to it for a week, and give your thoughts about all the tracks and all that fun stuff. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm Vile Self.
I'm TV Fish.
I'll see you guys on the next one. Keep those heads banging.